Coming up on a newscast. Warnings are in effect due to heavy rain in the Chungcheong provinces. Restoration efforts continue around the country. President Yoon apologized to the public over the rain disaster situation. Authorities reviewed designating affected regions as special disaster zones. Following a meeting with his Chinese counterpart, South Korea's top diplomat claims to have clarified Seoul's stance regarding THAAD, that it's a matter of the nation's sovereignty. But what China insists is something different. Hello and welcome to our newscast. I'm Daniel Che. Let's begin with our top story. The storm and rain is moving south from the capital area. Strong winds and pounding rain shifting to the Chungcheong-do region. Local governments and residents are bracing for heavy downpours until Friday morning. Han Sung-woo starts us off.
The dark storm clouds that devastated Seoul and the capital area with torrential rain have now moved south towards the Chungcheong-do region, where heavy rain warnings are in effect. The storm reportedly weakened throughout the afternoon, but as of 10 a.m. Wednesday morning, the southern parts of the region, as well as northern Jeollabuk-do province, were seeing more than 30 millimeters of rain an hour. The city of Daejeon, which at one point saw 60 millimeters of rain an hour, was hit the heaviest, 156 millimeters in total by 5 p.m., followed by several neighboring cities and counties pounded by over 100 millimeters of rain. There were no deaths reported in the area as of Wednesday evening, but 2 people in Daejeon, a couple, were evacuated from their home after their yard was inundated, leaving them trapped. Meanwhile, a fallen tree had temporarily left a road in Sejong City blocked. The Korea Meteorological Administration is forecasting strong winds, lightning, and heavy rain in the region until Friday. 100 to 200 millimeters of rain throughout Chungcheong-do, with some places even set to see upwards of 300. Officials have asked residents to be on alert, as around 50 to 70 millimeters of heavy rainfalls been forecast until the early hours of Thursday. Han Sung-woo, Arirang News.
Torrential rain drenched the central region, including Seoul, for 2 days straight. Widespread damage to buildings, roads, and cars are reported. The top priority is helping people and families affected by the floods. Yeon brings the updates.
After a disastrous 2 days of rain here in South Korea, recovery efforts are currently underway.
The water in my house is above my ankle. I can't even open the door to one of the rooms because floating furniture is blocking the way.
The nation's military will send around 1,300 troops to Seoul and its surrounding areas to work on restoring areas that suffered heavy damage. They will also pick up flood-damaged household items that have ended up outside.
The military will always be ready to support civilians who have been hit hard by the rain. We hope this aid to be helpful for damaged households.
Local authorities are also visiting certain sites to inspect the extent of the damage and will supply daily necessities to people who were forced to evacuate from their homes. Seoul city government plans to roll out 30 billion Korean won, or around $22.8 million in funding to restore public facilities and provide quarantine equipment for infectious diseases. The record rainfall seen on Monday and Tuesday in the Seoul metropolitan area is believed to be the heaviest in 115 years. Amid 2 days of chaos, the torrential rain caused floods and damaged homes, buildings, subway stations, and vehicles. At least 10 people died due to the adverse conditions, while 6 have been reported missing. In the capital, Seoul, around 600 people from over 400 households were forced to evacuate their homes and take shelter in schools and other public facilities. Several subway lines in Seoul, along with riverside parking lots, were closed over safety concerns. Although heavy rain alerts in and around Seoul area have been lifted for now, more rain is expected in the region until Thursday. Meanwhile, the Interior Ministry upgraded its flood damage watch level from alert to the highest serious. Authorities are urging citizens to take extra precautions as the wrath of Mother Nature may not yet be over. Lee Hyun, Arirang News.
President Yoon chaired response meetings during which he apologized to the public and ordered fundamental response measures in this abnormal weather. The ruling People Power Party and government officials also held talks to support such efforts. Kim Bo-kyung tells us more.
Regarding the heavy downpours that triggered massive flooding and damage in South Korea this week, President Yoon Suk-yeol on Wednesday apologized to the public.
희생자의 명복을 빌며 불편을 겪은 국민들께 정부를 대표해서 죄송한 마음입니다.
Saying that abnormal weather like this could happen again in the future, Yoon called for fundamental plans to be put in place, saying that there should be no delay in coming up with new measures, but also that restoration and support should also be carried out right away. Mentioning his visit to Gwanakgu district in Seoul on Tuesday, where the residents of a semi-basement housing unit died, President Yoon called for cutting-edge technology to monitor the levels of the country's waterways and to carry out simulations to test warning systems. Meanwhile, the ruling People Power Party and government have agreed to put damage restoration as their utmost priority by using all available budget and administrative capacity. The government also confirmed its will to review naming affected regions as special disaster zones.
The government should come up with preemptive and comprehensive measures in order to minimize the damage. Restoration sites are in need of equipment such as drainage pumps. The government should swiftly come up with plans to organize restoration equipment.
The government will try its best so that things can go back to how they were before. If necessary, it will also actively review announcing special disaster zones after a prompt investigation of the damage.
Part of other measures include swiftly compensating owners of damaged vehicles and giving financial aid to small business owners who have suffered flood damage. They also agreed on carrying out drainage pumps inspections nationwide using a task force set by both central and local governments. Both the government and ruling party have agreed not only to deal with the aftermath of the torrential rainfall that's believed to have been the heaviest in 115 years, but also aim to better deal with similar downpours in the future. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
During the flood, some people were getting electrocuted to death. Experts emphasize the importance of quickly evacuating potentially dangerous areas to avoid shocks during torrential rain. Shin Ha-young explains further.
The roads are damaged by heavy rain and utility poles are underwater. The rain caused some deaths of electric shock. A man in his 60s died of electric shock on Tuesday while cleaning up communication lines and roadside trees that had fallen amid the downpours. When the rain pours down, it is important to stay away from objects that could cause electric shocks, such as utility poles, street lights, electricity wires, and electronic signboards on streets. If you see any fallen street lights, make sure to evacuate from the area and call 119 or the Korea Electric Safety Corporation. In flooded homes, people should evacuate the building before the water reaches knee height. If the water level reaches 40 centimeters, people should immediately make an emergency call for help. However, if there is enough time, make sure to check the earth leakage circuit breaker.
If possible, it is important to shut down the transformer and cut off electricity in advance, which is helpful later when rescuing people.
If there is not enough time to do this, the most important thing is to get out of high-risk places as soon as possible. Shin Ha-young, Arirang News.
The nation's daily COVID-19 tally stood at 151,792. The first time since April, the figures exceeded 150,000. There were 50 related deaths. Slightly over 400 people were severely ill. Authorities plan to monitor the situation closely as people travel for the summer and the upcoming holiday. The number of cases could peak to 200,000 in the coming days before decreasing. This projection is an increase from early this month. The nation's agriculture ministry plans to boost the supply of key farm products ahead of Chuseok. Top priority is stabilizing farm product prices amid concerns inflation is gaining further momentum as Koreans prepare holiday meals for family gatherings. The government will expand grocery discounts through coupon distribution and procure hundreds of hectares of farmland for cultivating cabbages and potatoes. In a policy briefing to President Yoon, officials unveiled their goal of raising food self-sufficiency rate up to 52.5% from the current 45.8% by replacing imported flour with rice flour. China's foreign ministry claims South Korea would restrict THAAD operations, the latest coming from their recent bilateral talks. But the remark runs counter to comments made by Seoul's top diplomat. Min Soo-kyun provides a closer look.
China says that South Korea swore it would restrict its THAAD operation during their latest talks. In a press briefing on Wednesday, a spokesperson for China's foreign ministry said that South Korea vowed to limit the operation of its previously deployed anti-missile defense system. The spokesperson also stressed that deployment of THAAD to South Korea clearly harms its security interests.
The U.S. deployment of THAAD in the ROK clearly undermines China's strategic security interests. China has expressed its concerns to Korea on multiple occasions, and the Korean government has, accordingly, made public its commitments to the three no's, one limit policy. China attaches importance to Korea's position.
The remarks are contrary to how South Korea's foreign ministry sees the situation. Before departing Qingdao on Wednesday, Seoul's foreign minister Park Jin said he made it clear to his Chinese counterpart that the so-called three no's, including the THAAD issue, was neither a formal agreement nor a promise made between the two.
On the issue of THAAD, I said that Seoul's response to North Korea's nuclear weapons and missile threats is a means of self-defense and a matter of our security and sovereignty. Also, I made it clear that the so-called three no's is not an agreement or a promise.
The three no's is a policy put in place by the Moon Jae-in administration in 2017, which says no to deploying additional THAAD anti-missile system in Korea, no to participating in the U.S.-led missile defense network, and no to taking part in the trilateral military alliance with the U.S. and Japan. China wants the current Yoon Suk-yeol administration to keep this policy, but South Korea sees it as a matter of national security. While Seoul and Beijing share the view that THAAD should not be an obstacle to their bilateral ties, the issue still remains to be thorny and needs to be resolved. One expert says it's important for South Korea to clarify its position.
For each key issue, the country should go through the process of clarifying its position based on its values, identity, and national interests to deal with new challenges.
Earlier on Wednesday, the Chinese Foreign Ministry also issued a statement urging South Korea to seriously consider its security concerns over THAAD and called on the government to appropriately deal with the matter. Min Soo-kyun, Arirang News.
On Tuesday, the special envoys of South Korea and the U.S. held a meeting in Washington. Director General for North Korean Nuclear Affairs Lee Tae-woo and his American counterpart Chung Pak reportedly focused on strategies to combat the regime's ongoing attempts to generate revenue for weapons programs through malicious cyber activity. The session came a day after America slapped sanctions on a so-called cryptocurrency mixer for allegedly laundering virtual currency stolen by Lazarus, a North Korean hacker group. The allies will continue discussions in Seoul in a second meeting later this year. Ahead of a combined exercise with the U.S. later this month, the South Korean military plans to make sure all participants test negative for COVID-19. During the joint drills, they'll also have to test themselves 2 or 3 times a day. Seoul's defense chief led a meeting of top commanders and discussed virus prevention measures as well as other preparations. Lee Jong-sub highlighted the importance of the military strictly abiding by the rules during the combined training period due to risk of a massive outbreak. The minister also called for firm readiness in leading the drill with the possibility of North Korean provocations in mind. President Joe Biden signed a multi-billion-dollar spending bill aimed at boosting America's tech competitiveness against China. Massive investments in the domestic chip manufacturing and related scientific research are expected. Kim Il-sung provides a glimpse of what to expect.
President Joe Biden has signed a landmark bill into law aimed at providing $52.7 billion in subsidies for U.S. semiconductor manufacture and research. calling the bill a once-in-a-generation investment in America, Biden stressed during the signing ceremony Tuesday that the future is now going to be made in America.
We are the United States of America, a singular place of possibilities. I'm not going to go sign the Chips and Science Act, and once again, I promise you, we're leading the world again for the next decades.
The Biden administration underscored that the legislation, which is now called the Chips and Science Act, is critical for U.S. national security in competing with China, as well as reducing America's dependence on Taiwan and South Korea for critical technologies. The legislation also provides a 25% investment tax credit for chip facilities. The U.S. Commerce Department has yet to establish guidelines for evaluating grant applications, and it's unclear when projects will be financed. The White House explained Tuesday that numerous companies, spurred by the bill, have already announced over $44 billion in new semiconductor manufacturing investments. Meanwhile, Beijing opposed the bill. The Chinese embassy in Washington expressed Beijing's firm disapproval of the bill, describing it as, quote, reminiscent of a Cold War mentality. Kim Il-sun, Arirang News.
Moving on to other stories now, UN Chief Antonio Guterres condemned the recent shelling around the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, calling it suicidal. The Secretary General demanded the IAEA be given access to the plant. Russian state media later reported Moscow was ready to assist such a visit. President Volodymyr Zelensky appeared to elevate Ukraine's war aims, saying Tuesday that Crimea is Ukrainian and the war must end with Crimea. He was speaking soon after one person was killed when a Russian military airbase in Crimea was rocked by explosions. Ukraine has not claimed responsibility for that. According to Moscow, it was an explosion of stored ammunition. According to the UN's Weather Agency, this last month was one of the 3 warmest Julys on record. 60% of Europe is suffering from a drought which destroyed crops and raised the risk of wildfires. Yoon has the details.
The World Meteorological Organization has reported that last month was among the 3 warmest Julys on record, and according to Europe's Copernicus Climate Change Service, the Antarctic sea ice was the lowest for any July on record. The WMO report says temperatures in July 2022 globally were close to 0.4 degrees Celsius above the 1991 to 2020 reference period, which is only marginally cooler than July 2019 and marginally warmer than July 2016, the 2 other warmest Julys. For much of Europe, July 2022 was so dry that records were broken for low precipitation, which has caused water reserves to dry up.
Compared to the report that we released in July, we have estimated a worsening of the situation in most areas of Europe. Italy is, of course, among the countries most affected by the current ongoing drought, as well as the southern France, large areas in Spain, Portugal, southern and eastern Germany, and a large area across Romania, Hungary, and Ukraine.
France recorded an 85% rainfall deficit that's led to unprecedented water restrictions, which ban people from watering their lawns, washing their cars, and prevent farmers from irrigating their crops. More than 100 French municipalities have no running drinking water.
It's catastrophic, simply catastrophic. It's been several years now that it's been difficult due to COVID. But if you add a year of drought, it seems it's going to compromise the seasons to come.
Over in the UK, the local health agency has issued a heat alert warning as southeast England has gone 144 days with little to no rain. The drought that's desiccated large areas of Europe is putting much of the continent in crisis. According to a recent forecast published by the EU's Joint Research Center, heat and drought may lead to an 8 to 9% drop in the production of grain maize, sunflowers, and soybeans in Europe. Yoon, Arirang News.
Natural disasters like floods and storms are happening more frequently across the globe. In just the first half of the year, they've led to some $65 billion in economic losses worldwide. Choi Min-jung helps us look beyond the digits.
Every year, natural disasters like floods, earthquakes, and storms lead to significant economic losses. According to global reinsurance firm Munich Re, natural disasters in the first half of 2022 caused overall losses of $65 billion worldwide. A chief climate scientist at Munich Re says that it is becoming extremely clear that the influence of climate change is becoming ever more evident. The United States was the country with the highest weather-related economic losses. Losses in the U.S. totaled $28 billion in the first 6 months of 2022, accounting for almost half of the global economic damage. A series of severe thunderstorms and tornadoes were the main causes. The Asia-Pacific region also saw $22 billion of economic damage, a figure higher than usual. This was mostly caused by extreme rainfall and floods in Australia, as well as a powerful earthquake that struck Japan in March. In Europe, extreme heat and wildfires are believed to have had a big impact, though exact figures were not revealed. The International Labour Organization has also warned that work-related heat stress is projected to reduce global total working hours by 2.2% and global GDP by $2,400 billion by 2030. South Korea has also suffered from extreme weather events. Prices of agricultural products jumped by over 8% on-year in July, as production volume declined due to the earlier-than-expected heat wave and rainfall in early June. The Hyundai Research Institute says it is highly likely that there will be even bigger price hikes if there's more extreme weather in the coming years. Experts say climate change poses one of the biggest risks to the global economy, and that stronger protection is needed as the majority of people remain uninsured against natural disasters. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
Showers have mostly eased off for northern central regions, including here in the capital. Chances are high that rain will resume again overnight, but the strength of the rain clouds across the capital will be relatively weaker. Seoul will only see about 20 to 80 millimeters, but this time, heavy downpours will be lashing Chungcheong-do and Jeollabuk-do provinces with up to 300 millimeters in the forecast. Rain clouds will be clustered across the south of the country overnight. In particular, Chungcheong-do and Gyeongsang-buk-do provinces will see local downpours of 50 to 80 millimeters per hour. Because the ground is already weak from the previous rainfall, it will be important to take extra precautions against flooding and landslides. Central regions will see temperatures cooler than usual. Lows in Seoul will be starting off at 22 degrees. As for the daily highs, Seoul will be reaching 26 degrees, Daejeon 27, Daegu and Gyeongju will be hitting 31 degrees. Rain will continue for southern parts of the country until this Friday. Central regions will see rain again early next week. That's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
Time to wrap things up. As always, thank you for staying with us.